Hi folks, welcome back. Um, Today's video might not be for all of you. I know that a lot of you are far more advanced in making circuit boards and things like that than I am. Um, I'm kind of still at beginner level when it comes to making circuit boards and that kind of stuff. But I do quite often make little boards like this one that I used in the last video for choke testing. It's just a simple board with etched squares or shapes of copper on it, which I use for prototyping and testing, and I can wire up any number of different circuit configurations on one of these and use it many times. I also use simple boards like this in some permanent projects, like the one I'm working on today. And I do get, from time to time, I get questions from viewers wondering how I made these and if I have any tips and so on. So I thought I'd just go over the process today. So for those of you who are more advanced and, are great at making complicated PC boards with more advanced techniques, you probably want to skip this video. But some viewers may find it interesting, so I'm going to go over this process a little bit and show how I make a board similar to this. The one I'm going to make today is smaller and is going in a permanent project, but it is the same process. So I have here a little piece of circuit board that I've cut, and this is not very clean. It's been laying around in a drawer with a bunch of other stuff for years, and I marked on it, for lines for cutting and shaping. And I've been handling it, so I've got fingerprints all over it. So it needs to be cleaned up before etching, or before putting the tape on it in preparation for etching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of these Scotch-Brite pad and sponge combination things today. I've used dry sandpaper. I've used wet dry sandpaper. I've even used steel wool, although I wouldn't really recommend that because the steel can leave little tiny pieces of steel embedded in the copper or on the edges, and it's probably not ideal. So I'm just going to use this and some isopropyl alcohol. This happens to be 91%, but whatever you have, 70%, 91, 99%, whatever will work. Just put a little on here, maybe more than a little, and clean this thing up. The alcohol will do a good job of getting anything like, fingerprints and that kind of stuff off, and the abrasive pad will clean any dirt and get it right down to shiny copper. This happens to be a double-sided board, so I'll be cleaning both sides of it. And it shines right up pretty easily. So I'm not too worried about getting more fingerprints on it right now because this alcohol will kind of take care of those as they occur. So just a little rubbing with this thing, that's probably enough. And I usually rinse them off with a bit of water afterward. And trying to get some of the cut off knee here. And give me just 1 second to dry my hands, and then we'll dry that little piece of board. I'll just use a relatively lint-free rag here, and try not to touch it. Whoops! Try not to touch it too much as I wipe it here. Get it all dried off, and I'll just take it over to where I'm going to apply the tape, and we will continue from there. It's pretty clean at this point, nice and shiny. Okay, so I've moved over to another location to apply tape to this board so I can mask off the areas where I want to leave the copper on the board. I've used several kinds of tape for this over the years. Masking tape or painter's tape, like this blue painter's tape here, will work fairly well. Vinyl tape. This happens to be Scotch Super 88, I think. Or any of the cheaper equivalents will also work. This stuff works great. The only disadvantage of this is that it's a very stretchy tape, so it it's hard to keep it nice and in straight lines if you want to put pieces of it across a bigger board or something. Keeping it nice and straight because it's stretchy and wants to kind of deform and do its own thing on you. What I like to use, and I don't suggest you go out and buy them just for this purpose because they're too expensive, but this is a generic version of a Brother TZ series label maker tape. This stuff's great. It doesn't stretch or deform, and it sticks really well, and it's pretty easy to work with. So this is what I've been using lately. I have a lot of this stuff on hand, and whatever. I don't use the label maker all that much, and I have a lot of tape for it. So I've been using this stuff. So on the back of this board here, I'm just going to cover the entire board. I want to leave the copper on the whole back side of it, where I'm going to apply glue to this board and glue it down. This is going to be kind of like a giant Manhattan pad here. So I've just got to manage to get the backing off this stuff, and of course the camera is kind of in my way here of seeing what I'm doing. So here we go. So there's half of it. I'm going to go ahead and just stick this onto the board here, and then I'll see if I can get the other half of this backing off without making too much of a fool of myself like I just did with the first half. But it's probably going to be about the same kind of deal. There we go. So just press that down on there. Now on this one, you want to get the excess that's hanging out over the edges here off of this. So I am going to get a straight edge here, or I don't need a straight edge. What I need is something to press on that other than my fingers, so I don't get too many fingerprints on it. So just use a straight edge, or something to hold it down, and just trim this excess tape right off around here, wherever it happens to be. Of course, it's sticking to my razor blade. Alright, so there's the excess tape off the back side of the board. And let me just get these pieces of tape out of the way, and I can get them to stop sticking to me and themselves and everything else. This stuff is very sticky. So now I'm going to start forming the places where I want copper to stay on the top of the board here. And so I'm switching to a narrower tape. This is about a 1/2 inch wide instead of an inch or so. So I'm going to take pieces of this. I probably can do this by taking both pieces of backing off. Now I'm going to start with a strip on each end here. So one right across that end like so. And I'm going to go ahead and just wrap it around the back of the board. Probably don't have to do this, but I'm going to for convenience. And get another one here. And stuff always fights with me a little bit. Being blind never really helps any project. So I'm going to put this one on the other end of the board. Right across there. And wrap it around. And in the interest of time, I won't do this all on video. I'm going to put 2 more pieces across the middle of this board to make 4 strips here, and I'll just come back and show you this when I'm done doing it. I don't want to make this video too long and bore everybody to death. It's kind of clumsy working on this with the camera in the way here too. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here's my finished little board, or finished taping anyway. Completely taped on the back to keep all the copper on there, and taped where I want to leave copper on the front. I just need 4 nice broad pads across it here, or front or top or whatever you want to call it. Now if I wanted to remove some of this tape and make smaller pads, I would just use a knife and, you know, cut pieces out, cut strips out, and then just like slide the knife under the strip I want to remove and peel it up off of there. But in this case, I don't need to or want to do that. Now, I probably got a few fingerprints on this, so, you know, handling it to do this. So I'll just lightly wipe this with alcohol again. With this tape, you can definitely do that. You can wipe it again, and it's not going to hurt anything. So I'll just do that before I get to the etching process, and then I'll be back and show you that part of it. Okay, so I have my etching solution, ferric chloride, ready to go here. Yeah, I put it in a glass container, a little shallow glass container. And this stuff works better if you warm it up a little. It will work at room temperature, but it works a lot faster if you warm it up some. Just don't let it get too hot. It says on here not to let it get above 55 degrees Celsius or 135 Fahrenheit. You do not want to get this stuff warm enough to where it starts off-gassing and you see vapors rising from it. You probably wouldn't want to be breathing that stuff, so have to be careful with the heating. But I've warmed it up just a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and just put the board in here and get it submerged. Sometimes they don't want to sink. So there we go. That's all in there and ready. And I'm just going to get something to wipe off the ferric chloride from my tool here, because that stuff will attack stainless steel almost as well as it attacks copper. So this will take a few minutes, you know, 10 to 20 minutes depending on the temperature of this. And so I won't film the whole process, but I'll come back and check in on it here in a little bit and share with you how it's going. So it's been a few minutes and it's coming along. One thing you do want to do is just agitate this solution a little bit for every once in a while to get fresh ferric chloride onto the board. I don't know if you can see the little black stuff floating in there as the copper comes off the board. It makes this stuff, you know, the black, and you want to get fresh stuff on there every once in a while. So it's coming along. Copper's not off of there yet, but it's getting there. So another way you can, you know, get fresher stuff onto the board is just to drag it around a little bit with something like so. So won't be much longer. That'll be an etched board. Okay, so I think it's done. Now when I slide the board up here now, and the stuff kind of drains off of there, you can see the areas where there's no tape are now light colored. They're not black or dark anymore, so the copper is gone there. So I'm going to grab this board, hopefully if I can grab my tool here, and I'm just going to take it over and rinse it off and pull the tape off, and we'll have a look. It'll probably need a little more cleaning with alcohol, but that's usually the case. So it should be done. Okay, so here we are with the more or less finished board. I've pulled all the tape off, and it looks a little bit ratty. Some of the copper is a little bit discolored. Maybe some etchant, you know, got to it a little bit or whatever. But don't worry, it's intact. It just looks a little shabby right now. We'll fix that. So we'll get a little more alcohol here. Put it on my little scrubber. And we'll just give this a little bit of a scrub. Shouldn't take too much here to make that look good. I think I left my rag over on the other side of the room, so I might have to go get that here in a second. So maybe just a little bit more there. All right, so let me rinse that off. And I'm just going to go grab my rag so I can dry that. I'll be right back. Oh, here it is. Never mind, it's not on the other side of the room. I don't know what I do with stuff. All right, so we'll just clean that up. And there we go. There we go. So that looks fine. Now we've got 4 nice little strips of copper there, and some places where the copper is gone, and it's all solid copper on the back, like I wanted. So there's my little board, ready to go in a project, and I'll show you the finished project with this when it's done. When this board is in there, it is a filter for it's about a 480 kilohertz low pass filter for low frequency and medium frequency receiving. So I will just add a segment here when that is done, so you can see what I used this for. Okay, so here we are with the finished filter I made with that little board. This is roughly a 480 kilohertz or 500 kilohertz low pass filter with some parallel resonant traps in here to notch out various frequencies in the AM broadcast band above 600 kilohertz. It rolls off the attenuation a little more quickly than a straight low-pass filter without those traps in it would. So, I'll probably use this input on the left and output on the right, but it's really reversible. You could use it either way. So the point was the circuit board, and the little one that I made is just, you can see the strip is glued down in here onto a board that's all solid copper on the surface, and the parts are all soldered. The little islands of copper on the board that I made are connection points for parts. A lot of the parts go over here to ground on the big board. So it's just a simple way to to make a project like this, and it works very well for these low frequency filters. You have to still be a little bit careful with layout and such so that you don't get capacitive leakage paths around the filter at higher frequencies, but this is very, very adequate for what I'm going to be using it for in my low and medium frequency receiving station. So anyway, the filter wasn't the point today. The board was, and you can see that how it's used. It's just glued down to a ground plane, and the little islands on it used kind of like Manhattan pads, if you're familiar with Manhattan construction technique that QRPers and the like often use. So a simple way to build this. All right, so that's it for this video. I do have a number of projects going on the bench right now. I'm really into a lot of them. I've got 5 projects going at the same time, so watch for more videos coming, probably a few of them over the next week or 2. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.